This is how Jin Ping Mei is read. Chapter 52. The embroidered portrait is about Earl Ying playing Chun Zhou in the cave, and Pan Jinlian flirts with her beloved son-in-law in the Earl's cave. 1. Songs by Sister Li Gui. One of the major events that happened last time was that Sister Li Gui went to Ximon's house to plead for mercy and avoid trouble. Ximon King relented and agreed to send her to protect her in Tokyo. No matter how angry Tai Wei Liu Wang is, he can't win over the favor of the Grand Master. Sister Li Gui is basically safe. So how should the story progress? Since the 51st chapter is said to be the hub of the second half, it is obvious that the matter cannot be ended here, and will be further expanded, thus connecting a series of character stories, such as Wang Sangguan, Mrs. Lin, Zhang Aiyu, etc. Then, how does the author unfold it? What about? Let's look at the answer first. The title of the embroidered portrait book is similar to that of the poetry book. The first half is still the same. Ying Earl plays with Chen Zhao in the cave, and the person who loves Chen Zhao is Sister Li Gui. In other words, Sister Li Gui's plea for mercy to avoid trouble has been newly elaborated and developed this time, and the perspective has begun to change. Count Ying's drama runs through the entire story. Sister Li Gui took refuge at Ximon's house the night before, enduring boredom and listening to Buddhist scriptures all night with her godmother Wu Yunyang. The next morning, the nuns were finally sent away. The garden beauty gang generously invited their god niece, Sister Li Gui, to visit their garden property, and even extended their friendship as a landlord. I picked flowers and wore them with Sister Gui. Before they could tell the story, Earl Ying came. The purpose of Count Ying's visit to Ximon King was to borrow money for Li Sanhuangxi. That is, to borrow another 500 taels on top of the 1,000 taels of silver as mentioned above. Although Ximon King had plenty of money, he could not afford so much liquid cash at the moment, so he agreed to lend it out immediately after collecting the foreign debt. But last time Chen Jingji and a book boy went to collect the debt, they only received half, and the other half was still on the account, so they had to ask Li Sanhuang to come back in a few days. Anyway, the money is not spent by oneself, so forget it if you can't borrow it. Earl Ying couldn't make his trip in vain. Now that he was here, it would be good to get close to the boss and have a meal and drink. It happened that Song Zunji gave Ximon King a pig the day before yesterday. He was not as happy as everyone else. He invited Zizida to eat the pork when he got out of the water. The three of them sat down, then brought 3 bowls of noodles. Each of them helped themselves to the marinade and garlic vinegar. Then Earl Ying and Zizida picked up the chopsticks and only had to eat 3 bowls of noodles. The two of them immediately 7 bowls of it. Mercy made 7 bowls. When adjectives are conjugated into verbs, and when common words are used in different spaces, unexpected effects often occur. This is very common in Jin Ping Mei, but in A Dream of Red Mansions, it can be described as outstanding. While eating and drinking, Ximon King asked Sun and Ju about the situation of the 2 helpers. Count Ying said that they were probably on their way to Tokyo. When I get there Tokyo, no one comes home cleanly safely. You just say that you are trying to drink alcohol and eat meat. It's so easy to eat. It seems that he is the one who suffers this kind of suffering. It's such a hot day on the road. I'm carrying it on the iron rope, and it's not tied up. So what's the big deal? In addition to despising Sun Chu, Earl Ying also despised their boss Wang Sangguan, and then expressed his position. The clear ones are only clear, and the muddy ones are only muddy. And then flattered Ximon King. Brother Big, what are we doing? Just mention it and scare him to death. There's a little fun here. To say that Ximon King brought up this topic seems very much like Count Ying borrowing the donkey from the slope. However, Count Ying is such a smart and intelligent person. How can a helper like him really look at his own or our companions, Sun and Ju, indifferent despite the catastrophe? Is he really so hard-hearted that he doesn't feel the least bit sad about the death of a rabbit or a fox because of his interests? My opinion is negative. I will click here and wait for Sister Li Gui to analyze it together. Ying and Zi were drinking with Ximon King, so it was natural that songs were needed to add to the fun. So the author arranged for Sister Li Gui to perform several arias in succession. Even the embroidery book retains a large portion of the text of the lyrics. It is obvious that the lyrics themselves are rich in information. It can be said that this is a series of tunes tailor-made for Sister Li Gui. I won't go into details here. but simply summarize the connotation and mood. When a crisis comes, I feel frightened in my heart. My heart breaks with longing. I sleep alone at night and can't bear to think about it. Tears stream down my face. I regret my original love, which leads to worry now. I am worried about the future, full of Obviously, Sister Li Gui was using the song to express the abstract emotion of missing her lover, but Earl Ying used the facts of Wang Sangwan to criticize him paragraph by paragraph. It was fine in the beginning, so you should be worried. The heartbreak is fake. It is better to give up. There is nothing terrible about missing. Wang Sangwan was not arrested and went to Tokyo, but you are hiding here. Cry if you want. You can't. I can only cry secretly. Regret falling in. What kind of love do you have between prostitutes and clients? Are you more serious about flirting with clients than clients? Earl Ying even sang a song at this point. The old godly woman only wants to make money, but the little whore has no choice but to drag her neck to earn money. The pain is like drowning in a river, and the sorrow is like searching for money. When the karma jar has to be filled, she will turn into a donkey and a horse and not to this business. Unexpectedly, Sister Li Gui actually started crying. This prostitute, who is almost the most shameless in the book, can actually be poked in a sad place. In response to this, Simon King slapped the Earl on the head and laughed and scolded. You are such a gut-breaking dog. You will kill them if you eat them alive. Because he called Sister Gui, you sang. Ignore him. The plot is temporarily pressed. According to our life experience, what is Simon King's attitude at this time? Why did Earl Ying bully Sister Li Gui like this? This analysis starts with Sister Li Gui's tears. From the content of Li Guiji's arias, we can see that Li Guiji is really in love with Wang Sangwan, although she has always been profit-seeking. And although Wang Sangwan has to pawn her fur coat in order to afford her, it is inevitable that the appearance of a talented man will not lead to love. Spark. But love generally only belongs to ordinary people who wear hemp and eat vegetarian food. Whether it is a prostitute or an aristocratic girl, love has always been a luxury. Therefore, when Earl Ying sang bitterness is like drowning in a river, sadness is like finding a union and changing a donkey into a horse. When I stop doing this business, Sister Li Gui will shed tears of sadness involuntarily. You might as well compare. When Sister Li Gui asked Simon King for help last time, she looked tired and listless, not even to the point of feeling sorry for herself. However, now she shed tears in public. It's easy to sell laughter, but it's hard to buy tears. Perhaps, this time, Sister Li Gui was really moved. However, how could Sister Li Gui, who still wanted to be related to the Simon family, be truly attracted to Wang Sangwan? Back then, it was wrong to pick up guests behind Simon King's back, let alone love others behind his back. If she had the right to love freely, why would she have the audacity to lie and deny when she came to beg for mercy? Simon King, the godfather who was already an official, was embarrassed to humiliate Sister Li Gui in person. And there was no need to fall out with her, but there was unavoidable resentment in his heart. Therefore, Earl Ying, who was good at observing words and emotions, naturally knew how to do things for his boss at every opportunity. And Simon King also acquiesced in this, and did not stop until the heat was up. Sister Li Gui cried. Now the new question is Earl Ying being too cruel? Sister Li Gui sang one by one, and Earl Ying went from talking to joking to singing directly. He even teased Sister Li Gui a few words when she cried. We all know that Earl Ying and Sister Li Gui were originally partners who lived together on the same boat. So, why would he trample people to death? I think this is a plot specially designed by the author. In these places, he has a deeper thought than other authors. He just hopes that we can see Sister Li Gui's tears, just like the suffering of Sun and Chu. They were both helpers, but Sun and Chu just fell in love with the unreliable Wang Sangwan. As a result, they couldn't eat or drink and almost lost their lives. They were despised and people couldn't help but sympathize with them. They were also prostitutes. And Sister Li Gui lied again and again. She escapes from Simon's house again and again, all in order to meet her young lover Wang Sangwan. When we thought that she was doing everything for money and despised her, we found that there was a trace of true love in it, which is also embarrassing. I think this is what makes Jin Ping Mei particularly outstanding. No matter how bad Simon King is, how ruthless Pan Jinlian is, how shameless the helper is, or how despicable the prostitute is, When you really get close to their lives, you can still see the tender side. I saw them struggling hard for their own lives and their own emotions. If we put ourselves in the shoes of others, in such novels, no matter how bad the villains are, no matter whores and prostitutes, they have embarrassing obstacles. But they also have their own deep feelings and true love, transcending the prosperity and hypocrisy of the world itself. Facing the perverseness of life, paradox, perhaps we can understand the author's deep meaning, and no longer arbitrarily wield moral weapons to judge characters and decide right and wrong, but use a compassionate heart. Use life and time to experience the taste of life, and sympathize with those who are helpless, the unstoppable birth, old age, illness and death, love, hatred and resentment. However, the next story is a bit hilarious. Sometimes I really doubt what kind of heart and stomach the author of Jin Ping Mei has to write such shocking words. A series of gags were made at the banquet, which forced Sister Li Gui to tears. Suddenly, things took a turn for the worse, and Simon King pulled Sister Li Gui into the snow cave of Zhongchunwu. The snow cave was the place where Song Huilian had an affair. Perhaps it has become a forbidden place known to Simon's family. Who knows when the boss will bring another woman in. However, Sister Li Gui had just escaped from the embarrassing situation of Wang Sangwan, and had just struggled with the sadness of missing her lover. At this time, Simon King invited her to stay in the snow cave for a while. What was his intention? If we talk about punishment, this is probably not a punishment. If it is a request for repayment, it seems not worth mentioning. Could it be that when he saw Sister Li Gui falling in love with Wang Sangwan, he suddenly recalled the romantic years in the past and felt towards the former one? Are you afraid that you will meet the famous prostitute in your dream and become a front woman who can be seen from a distance but not easy to play with? Are you unwilling to do so? Are you jealous of Wang Sangwan, the wealthy and defeated young master of a wealthy family? Probably it was a variety of complex and morbid psychological effects, mixed with Hu Sengyao's show-off and desire, that jointly created the crazy moment in Zhongchunwu. What's interesting is that just like the punishment for singing songs before was handled by Earl Ying was also invited to perform a show in the snow cave affair. Little slut, please do it to me, otherwise I will start shouting, and even the sister-in-law behind will know it. Since you consider me your goddaughter, I have the kindness to teach you to hide for 2 days. But you are stealing a man. On the surface, the stealing man here is to steal Simon King, but the subtext is to speak for the boss. Since you dared to steal another man, Wang Sangwan, you don't have to come to Simon's house to get close. Who really cares about you? A goddaughter. Sister Li Gui couldn't express her suffering, so she had no choice but to let him be bullied and asked him to tap her head, press her down, and kiss her on the mouth. In the 9th chapter of A Dream of Red Mansions, Qin Zhang had a secret meeting with his male classmate Xiang Lian in the school. Jin Rong also said that he wanted to beat the head, but Qin Zhang was furious, which triggered a fight among his classmates. Under normal circumstances, who would tolerate an outsider taking a swipe at the head on such a private matter? As critics of this portrait pointed out, although we are happy as before in private, there is nothing serious to talk about. It can be said that from then on, Simon King's various love-hate entanglements with Sister Li Gui were completely resolved. Although Sister Li Gui still went in and out of Simon's house, Simon King probably had no interest in her anymore. The fake father-daughter relationship has since come to an end too. Wu Yunyang's Renzi last time, 2 nuns brought the fertility talisman and clothing cells. In order for them to be effective, they must have sex on the Renzi day. However, Wu Yunyang is illiterate, and probably Yu Xiao Xiaoyu is also illiterate. How can Wu Yunyang know which day it is? Is it Renzi Day? The author designed a plot in which a young Jewer with a shaved head seeks a living at Simon's house and helps Simon with his shaved head and gives him a massage. Because ancient people's hair was too long and it was inconvenient to wash their hair frequently, they could only clean it with a grate. Because Xiao Zhaoer came to have his hair shaved, I asked him to help Brother Guan shave his head. At this time, Wu Yunyang began to care about feng shui in a time to see whether it was appropriate or taboo. 6th sister, look at the calendar and see if it's a good day or a bad day, so you can shave your child's head compared to others. Pan Jinlian is a talented woman after all and knows a few words. It's just that she never imagined that she would be targeted again at such a young age. By looking at the calendar, Wu Yunyang accidentally came across Renzi Day. Look at the calendar. When is Renzi Day? Pan Jinlian. The 23rd is Renzi Day's sister. Why do you ask him? Wu Yunyang. I don't know anything. Just ask. This day is the 21st, and the 23rd is 2 days later. It was just a matter of asking, and no one else would know. But Wu Yunyang's pregnancy plan was about to be completed. For comparison, Brother Guan had an accident again. Xiao Zhuer helped Brother Guan shave his head, but Brother Guan started crying and making a fuss within a few seconds. For a baby, this is a normal phenomenon, but after crying, the cry went on and the baby stopped making any sound, and his face became swollen and red. He held it in for a long time before he let out a sound. This was another fright for Brother Guan. In fact, almost every contact with the outside world would scare him. In a short time, Brother Guan will be frightened to death. Li Ping'er will also die of grief, and Wu Yunyang will be pregnant with Brother Xiao. The changes in the heirs will bring changes in power, and the Ximen family's competition for favor will also change, upgrade again. 3. Pan Jinlian's skirt. At the beginning of this chapter, Ximen King enters Pan Jinlian's room again. Pan Jinlian was very excited, wearing exquisite red sleeping shoes, and her jade body was spread out on the couch. She really wanted to have a vigorous love affair with Ximen King, but what she didn't expect was that Ximen King asked for the flower in the back garden. Without saying anything, Pan Jinlian was very depressed. This unique skill that originally belonged to the sex machine Wang Liwer, a shameless thing that could only be done by a book boy, also fell on her. This also proved the previous article about Pan Jinlian also fell into as a sex machine, but in order to be pampered, even if it is to win a few more points for this only man. As repay, Ximen King promised to give her a good dress. You can make requests. What does Pan Jinlian want? What she wants is a gold oil goose yellow and silver gauze skirt with jade threads and sheepskin picks. Although the specific description of this skirt in the embroidery book and the poetry book are different, it is probably not cheap with such complicated words. It will inevitably cost a few taels of silver. What's interesting is that Pan Jinlian saw Sister Li Gui wearing such a skirt, so she also wanted it, not to mention the joy of pursuing luxury goods. If this new beautiful skirt is women want to please themselves and look good, then Pan Jinlian's attitude of daring to learn from prostitutes can really be described as Juani Duoji. On the other hand, at the end of the last chapter, Chen Jingji gambled and lost 3 Jin of silver, and asked Li Ping'er to make up for some of it. So he set up a table of water and wine in the garden for the wives and concubines to have fun. This was another affair for Chen Pan, created good opportunities. The plot of Pan Jinlian fluttering at butterflies reappears here in the Chihuahuan, which is a bit incredible. After all, the author is unlikely to repeat his own plots in the same novel. Fortunately, this omission was well compensated in the embroidery book. First, the repeated scene of fluttering butterflies was changed to picking flowers. Then, it is not difficult to imagine that Chen Jingji followed Pan Jinlian to the mountain. The following dialogue is even more unique. Jingji was thoughtful. When he saw her, he followed quietly and said from behind, "Wen Yang, what are you looking for? The grass is slippery. I'm afraid if you fall, your son will feel bad." The golden lotus twisted her pink neck back, glanced at her eyes sideways, and said with a smile and a curse, "What a short-lived bastard. You offended me. But you feel bad for me? Who wants you to care? What are you doing with me again? I'm not afraid of people watching either." A very interesting dialogue, especially the word "and," not only summarizes all the previous affair stories, but also summarizes all Chen Jingji's salivating faces and eyebrows. Then, without pausing, he immediately moved to the sweat towel, and then from the sweat towel back to Li Ping'er was walking from the pine wall, with Guanjir in her arms and Ryer following her. When he saw the golden lotus in his hand, he fanned himself with a ball. He didn't know it was to show his respect to Jingji, but he thought he was flapping a butterfly. In just a few words, the affair episode was completed, and the flaws in the script were smoothed out to justify the story from a writing perspective. The sentence "I only recognize it as fluttering butterflies" is actually meaningless, so I speculate that it was probably read by the rewriter of the portrait script. Seeing the inconvenience of repeating butterfly here, I made some modifications intentionally, but with the idea of butterfly in my mind, I couldn't help but help the Chihua book. This can probably be regarded as the embroidered portrait book was born out of the Chihua book. A little argument, but what happens next is a bit incredible. Li Ping'er's sudden appearance made Chen Jingji panic and hide in a cave. Pan Jinlian had no choice but to chat with Li Ping'er out of boredom. Pan Jinlian, brother-in-law Chen, haven't you ever married a sweat scarf? Li Ping'er, he hasn't been with me yet. Pan Jinlian, he was holding it in his sleeve just now. He didn't want to share it with my eldest sister, so he quietly handed it to me. It's simply a mouth-watering dialogue. It was too obvious that Pan Jinlian wanted to hide it. But even so, Li Ping'er didn't react at all. What's even more bizarre, that the last time Pan Jinlian slandered Li Ping'er knew it well but kept it quiet and broke her teeth and swallowed blood. She cried and said to Sister Ximen, sooner or later, these two ladies will be tricked by her. At this time, he actually ignored the past and played dominoes with Pan Jinlian alone for the sake of shade. What's even more exaggerated is that when Meng Yulu called Li Ping'er and said that Wu Yunyang was looking for her, she actually left the child behind and let Pan Jinlian watch. Theoretically, no matter what important matter there is, it is impossible for Li Ping'er to make such a move. In fact, it is impossible for Li Ping'er to have anything important to do at this time. What's even more exaggerated is that Li Ping'er was so stupid at this time that when she saw Wu Yunyang, she could still calmly say, no one is looking after the child down there. Before, Li Ping'er even felt uncomfortable when Pan Jinlian picked up the child. Fear, didn't even Sister Li Gui feel anxious when she held the child? Even though we have said that Li Ping'er's negligence was an important reason for Guanji's death, this text is still too incredible. It can be said that it completely distorts the previous image of Li Ping'er's wholehearted protection of the calf. Although Meng Yulu and others went to help Li Ping'er carry the child later, they found that Pan Jinlian was having an affair with Chen Jingji in a cave, and Luo Guan's brother was frightened by the black cat. The image of a black cat is connected with the white cat and snow lion in the context line, but this paragraph about Li Ping'er is an unspeakable failure, and the next 5 chapters are recognized as humble Confucianism to make up for the engraving. Therefore, I wonder if there is a possibility that starting from the second half of the 52nd chapter of the Chihua book, when Pan Jinlian flutters at the butterfly, it is humble Confucianism. What about the one written by Confucianism? In any case, these few chapters in the middle of the text are very out of place with the context, which is really an embarrassing regret for the great Jin Ping Mei.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.